The message spreads. On July 13th, 1982, the first check for $16,000 arrived from the province for major repairs. During this time, volunteers were regularly coming to the South Bronx to help. People came to scrape floors, repair walls, help clear out debris. It was not an organized effort by any means. Father Andre learned early on to welcome anyone who showed up. He kept a list of what needed to be done and assigned the tasks accordingly. Haphazard, yes, but the work got done. Jackie Genova remembers Father Andre asking her if she and her husband would like to take part in this makeshift renovation. "We liked the idea of helping others and being involved in the community," she said. They were also drawn in because they had heard of the project from France at St. Mary's Church. But when Jackie first went down to the house, she was shocked. "I thought it was mission impossible, but then we could see it had great possibilities." This sentiment was shared by many of the early volunteers. Still, there was a determination to get the job done, with the friars' enthusiasm and energy and a feeling that this was all part of God's plan. Nothing seemed insurmountable. At the time, having a retreat house for the poor did not seem to be an extraordinary thing. It was simply something a friend wanted to do, and he needed help, and many were willing to do a small part. The sum of these small parts made for something wonderful. But looking back, it was extraordinary. In 1982, there was no social media, no Facebook or email or text messaging. The message of the retreat house was spread by word of mouth, by phone calls and old-fashioned snail mail. Today, when a need goes out, it only takes minutes, if not seconds, for that message to reach a large audience. In the South Bronx in 1982, the word went out person to person. However, the response was still immediate and overwhelming. Many of the volunteers came from St. Mary's Church in Mount Vernon. Father Andre often celebrated Mass there and had participated in the popular Wednesday night prayer meetings. He also helped launch a parish teen retreat called Ich Tu's, based on the teens' Encounter Christ tech program. The parish was a small one, its members mostly middle class or working poor. The church itself was small, with a building next door that served as a gathering space for events and meetings. There was no school. Again, the parallels to the secular Franciscan rule can be drawn. A sense of community will make them joyful and ready to place themselves on an equal basis with all people, especially with the lowly, for whom they shall strive to create conditions of life worthy of people redeemed by Christ. Article 13. The community of St. Mary's, although diverse culturally and economically, already saw themselves as equal. When they became involved in the retreat house, they were working to create conditions of life worthy of people redeemed by Christ. The retreat house was for the poor, and the volunteers worked hard to create a spiritual oasis for them in the South Bronx. The hope was that this would improve the lives of anyone who came for retreats and prayer. St. Mary's parishioners were fiercely devoted to their church, its priests and their community. They looked out for one another. So when a request for help or prayers went out, members answered the call. So there was no surprise at the number of people who showed up to help renovate the building.